Hello and welcome to the video. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this fire. This does not use a simulator. This is just an animated texture. That's all it is. But I'm just going to show you the basic principles of how you get this fire texture going. Play with it and extrapolate from there. Okay, let's get started. This is a very simple lesson. I'm going to go through it quickly. Now, it can get really complicated, but I'm not going to do that in this video. I'm just going to show you basically an introduction to doing this kind of thing. This is an old way of doing fire that's been around since, I don't know, forever. I was doing this in the 90s. R90X is what I just hit, by the way. Then GZ1, which puts it where I want it. Choose the camera, Alt G to eliminate transformation, that puts it in the center. Alt R zeroes out the rotation. Then R90X points it the way I want it. GY, pull it back a bit. GZ1, move it up. And now if we look through the camera, it's pointed straight at dead center the thing. I want to move it back a little bit, so G, middle mouse button. I'm not going to call out every key I'm using, but I don't have screencast keys, so I'm going to have to call out a lot more of them than I want to. Change it to render, which is going to be an Eevee. The background to black. Get a shader editor up here. Let's add a shader, emission, just stick it in here. Oh, too small. Yes, I agree. Emission shader. Then I'm going to put in a texture. Texture I'm going to use is a gradient. What we're going to do is we're going to make a simple flame. Basically, this is the concept. We're going to make a simple flame and then manipulate that flame to make it more complex. You'll see it. It's fairly simple. Okay, now we've got our gradient texture. Choosing the texture, hit Control T, which brings up the texture coordinate and mapping nodes, because I have Node Wrangler turned on. It comes with Blender. Turn it on. You'll like it. Anyway, so we've got this. Now, if I move this, as you can see, it moves the sphere around. If I move it this way, moves it up and down. If I move it this way, it makes it get bigger and smaller. That doesn't make any sense. Reason that happened, I left it happen so you could see that. I rotated this plane and moved it to this position, but I didn't apply those things. So let me do that. Apply all transformations. And now if we zero these back out, which I'm doing by just hitting 0 and tab. Okay, now it's down in this corner. We want it in the center. So if you look up here in the upper right hand corner, it shows you which way your axes are pointing. I'm pointing straight into the y-axis. The x-axis goes right and left. The z-axis goes up and down. So if I want this in the center, now I want to scale it down in the x-axis so that it's taller than it is wide. And if I start doing that, you'll see that it scrunches over to the left instead of staying in the center as I would like. The reason it does that is because these fields, location, rotation, scale, are not done in that order. They're done simultaneously. So when this thing is scaling, it's scaling it from the original origin. It's not scaling it from where it's located now. How do you get around that? Well, it's real easy. Just gonna copy this, Shift D, put it over here, change this back to 0. Now we've got 0.5 being here, but now this scale is going to be working on the coordinates as they are. That's it. Now that's a flame. Doesn't look like much one. Let's put a color on it. So I'm going to use a converter, color ramp, figure out where the color is supposed to go, right here, and then add a couple of pointers. And here I'm going to make this yellow. Oh, there is something else going on. This looks kind of dull to me. You may not have noticed it because you're not used to seeing what I'm used to seeing. Go down to color management. Anytime you're doing stuff like this and you're developing something like this, go to color management and turn it from filmic to standard. Brightens it up. Lets you see the colors you're actually making and not some weird distorted version of them. Filmic is good if you're trying to do scenes with lighting and stuff, but when you're just trying to see the colors of what you're doing, when you're doing cartoon work, graphics work, stuff like that, turn off filmic. It doesn't do you any favors. Back here, make this one red and nice and bright. There we go. That's kind of flamey looking. Now if I bring this white in, I should be able to get some white showing up near the bottom somewhere. There we go. That's nice. And move that there. Lovely flame. Yeah. Now we want that flame to wiggle and stuff. So the way we do that, I'm going to add a noise texture, and I'm going to have to take a brief side thing here to explain how textures work. If I take the color of this texture, stick it into our emission shader, this is what the noise texture looks like. It basically consists of 3 channels. A red one you can see, a red one, a green one, and a blue one. The important thing is they are red, green, blue. What's coming through that noodle is 3 numbers, red, green, and blue value. But a vector noodle also has 3 numbers, X, Y, and Z. So that means you can take a color output and stick it into a vector input like this. Okay, now why does that look like that? Because this is not hooked up. There we go. And it does that. Now that's still our little sphere, but it's been smeared all over the place by the noise texture. So what we want to do is we don't want the noise texture just blasting the thing. What we want to do is mix this, the values from this, with the values from this in a controlled fashion. So we're going to do it like this. I'm going to add in a color mix node, put the color from the noise in the bottom, put the coordinates in the top. Reason it moves because the coordinates aren't connected at the moment, and put that in here. Let me make sure you can see this. Now I want to change this to add, because we're adding the noise to this value to distort it controllably. Then we can slide this slider. This slider is the reason I don't use a vector math node to do this, because vector math nodes will do the same operation, but they don't have the slider. Slider is very handy. So I start doing this, and you'll see it's distorting our flame all the way down to not even existing anymore. Huh! That's not very good. What's happening there? The values coming out of the noise texture range from 0 to 1, which means all the addition is moving in one direction. Okay, we don't want that. We want it to be able to move in right and left, up and down, back and forth. So the way we do that, I add another color node here and set it to subtract. What we want to do is subtract 0.5 from all 3 channels. That way it'll range from a negative number to a positive number. It'll be symmetrical. Makes sense? Good. Turn that up all the way. You'll notice if you look at RGB, these are all set to 0.5. Comes that way. So it's automatically doing what we want. So now, if I turn this factor up, see? It's doing it where it stands. It's not moving it. You'll also notice it doesn't completely disappear either. That was actually happening because it was moving it off the y-axis in one direction. Just made it disappear. Now, that looks kind of like a flame. Let me turn the detail off. Okay, that's what we've got. So a couple things. One is it's hitting this top up here, which I don't like. We'll deal with that in a minute. So now we've got something that looks kind of flame-like. Now let's make it move. I'm going to Control T on the noise texture so we can control that. And then if you see, if I just move this, it's moving. It's moving down. As this goes positive, it's moving down. So obviously we want this to go negative. So I'm going to put driver in here. Number, frame, divided by, let's go with 40. Guessing. I'll hit the space bar. Okay, now it's not working because this happens sometimes. Once you put something in that field, it won't automatically change if you just put something. So I had to delete the driver. Now I'll do it again. Make sure I hit the number key. There it is. Frame divided by 40. There, that's shifted. So if I hit this, there we go. And as you can see, it's going down, not up, because I forgot to make it negative. Let's just put a minus sign in there. And now, there we go. Now we got kind of a flamey thing going there. I want it to be more detailed, so I'm going to change the scale. Okay, maybe add a little more detail to it. Not too much. Yes, no, yes, no. It looks alright. A little bit of distortion. Make it look like it's, you know. There you go, there you go. That's not bad. Maybe it should be running a little bit faster. See if I can get away with it. I'm going to change that from 40 to 30. The way it works is I'm dividing the timeline by a number. If you divide it by a smaller number, it's going to move faster. If you divide it by a bigger number, it's going to go slower. Yeah, that's not bad. Now, there's a few things we want to touch up. Just looking to see what we got here. Maybe that white could ease off a little bit. There we go. Maybe the yellow could ease off a little bit too. Okay, there we go. Make the red a little more red. There you go. I could desaturate that whole thing. It's a little cartoony right now, but it's fine. It's fine. There's a few other things I would like. One is if you look at it for a little while, it kind of looks like there's a pattern just sliding up. So I want it to look like it's more wispy, like there's some turbulence going on. The way I'm going to do that, there's actually a couple ways of doing that. I could switch the noise texture to 4D and animate the 4D component, but I don't like doing that. So instead, what I will do is add, remember, going into the plane is the Y. So I'm just going to put a driver on the Y. Number, frame, divided by, I don't want it to be very fast, so I'll make it about 100. It doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative. And there you go. That looks about right. Maybe I want a little more detail, so let me just scale up the noise a little bit. Yeah, that'll work. Now there's another problem to deal with, which is, let me put a plane down here, which is, let me freeze that to make it clearer. This thing's opaque. We don't want that. We want to be able to see through it. So come over here to this part. I'm going to add an add shader and a transparent shader. And I'm going to save, because this is actually the second time I'm doing this exact same lesson. The first time I got significantly past this part. It was looking really nice. I was making a scene to make it look pretty and everything, and bam, the whole thing crashed. I lost absolutely everything. I want to put the add shader into the surface, stick the transparent into here, and stick the emission into here. You notice that's not working. Why is that? It's because it's not set to use transparent. So I go to the what's that called? Material properties, and down here in settings, blend mode is opaque. I set that to alpha blend, and the miracle occurs. Now every place, now you can see the thing where it is, and I'll get rid of that, and the other part is not there. Now you could stick this in any scene you want and have all kinds of fun. If I turn up the strength on that, it does what you expect. And you notice it's just a plane though. So you have to make sure the plane is just pointing at the thing. You say, well, how realistic is that? Just a plane sticking on the thing. Glad you asked that. Let me show you. If I put something here to hide the bottom of it, basically. I'm in edit mode now. Just get rid of that top. Okay, now I'm going to go over here, modifiers, put on a solidify. Modifier. Make it fairly thick, and add a subdivision surface. Crank it up a couple. That's good. Maybe one more. Okay. Gives us a nice pot for the fire to play in. Let down a bit. Through the camera, it looks like that. Now I'm going to grab this plane and pull it up so that the bottom of it is just hidden by that pot. Now there is something else I want to do. Maybe you noticed it. I showed it to you earlier on. I said I'd deal with it. Now it's time. Which is that this texture is intersecting the edges of the plane. And that makes it look cut off, and it makes it obvious that it's on a plane. So what I'm going to do is go into mapping node. Now remember how this is set up. These things here are controlling the position of the sphere. These things down here are controlling the distortion of the sphere. So we want to scale the sphere. So let me just turn off the distortion. And, although actually I should leave it on, because that way we can see what we're doing. So I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to mess with these until it fits. So we just go to 2x. We're going to just knock that up a little bit. Just get it away from the edges. And then Z, I'm going to knock that up a little bit to get away from the top. Yeah? And that's good. Now it looks like this. Okay, it's still going outside the canister a little bit, but that's an easy fix. Alright, while I'm here, I might as well shade that. Smooth. Okay, that looks good. And again, GZ. Want to move that so it's just inside there. It's fairly good. Let's see what it looks like rendered. I'm going to pull it back just a little bit more. Maybe scale up this plane a bit. Maybe turn down that light. Well, here's the thing. This can actually light a scene. If you're using it in cycles, it will cast light. Let me show you. Because I'm using an emission. Right? It's not real visible because there is a light in the scene. Turn that down. Okay. See? But I wouldn't use it that way. If you're going to do it in a scene, like you're using a torch on the wall, or you're doing a campfire or something, you add a light and animate the light, and that light lights the scene. I'll show that in a minute. But there's something else that's not quite finished. Let me go in here, and the problem is I want to scale the noise texture, add another one of these. I'll just shift D that one, put it over here. And then these, the drivers don't copy, in case you didn't know that. It's weird. Okay, now it's doing what it was doing before. But what I want to do is scale it in the Z direction, that is up and down, to make it look more like it's moving in that direction. Yeah, there you go. And now that I've done that, I'm not happy with the scale, so let's turn it up a little bit more. There it is. Not bad. I'm going to fiddle with it a little more and give it a nice render, so you can see the final result. It looks like a plane. Like if you were watching me set this up, which you were, you know that this fire stops right at the lip of this thing. It's not coming up from the bottom of it. It's just a graphic sitting in there. You know, if I were to look down on it, you'd see it's just, you know, basically a picture of fire floating in the middle of the thing. But there it is. See you in the next one. Oh, make sure you, if you like this kind of stuff and you want to see more of it, like and subscribe. But if you want the super detailed stuff, go to my Patreon, where I do much longer, more detailed videos than I can do on YouTube, because the algorithm does not favor long, detailed videos. Nobody wants to sit around and watch them unless they're deliberately looking for them, which you would be if you're on my Patreon. So anyway, thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you in the next one.